Buddy, welcome back to the Direct Book Me podcast, where we talk to the people shaping the future of short term rentals and direct bookings. Today's episode is especially exciting because we're diving into one of the biggest questions hosts and operators face right now. How do you create an Airbnb level guest experience without relying on Airbnb? And how to help us unpack that, we've joined by Francois. Oh my gosh, I didn't ask you how to pronounce your last name.
You're good. Guello, Francois
Guello.
Guello.
Okay, let's start this from the beginning, take two.
You're
Welcome
good.
back to the Welcome back to the Direct Book Me podcast, where we talk to the people shaping the future of short-term rentals and direct bookings. Today's episode is especially exciting because we're diving into one of the biggest questions hosts and operators face right now. How do you create an Airbnb level experience without relying on Airbnb? And to help us unpack that, we're joined with Francois Guello, co-founder and CEO of Enzo Connect, an AI-powered guest experience platform serving more than 7 million guests worldwide. Enzo Connects has become one of the leading platforms helping short-term rental operators streamline communication, automate operations, increase revenue, and create incredible guest experience, all while owning the direct relationship with the guests. So, to set up this conversation, we're going to talk about the mindset shift operators need to make to succeed with direct bookings, how AI is changing hospitality, guest trust, damage protection and screening, and the operational system that help hosts scale profitably. Francois, welcome to the show. We're so excited to have you.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Excited for this talk today.
And without further ado, I also want to introduce Carlos Castillo, who is also the founder of Direct Bookings, and I will let you guys take it away from here.
Awesome. Thank
Awesome.
you, Sasha. Francois, welcome again. Glad to have you and helping us, get the education out there for host and direct bookings. You know how this is a
Okay.
growing thing and can definitely can be made safe and it can work for everyone, for host and guest. So, Francois, before we get into the tech itself, I think a lot of operators are still mentally dependent on platforms like Airbnb and Verbo. So, what mindset shift do hosts need to make it if they truly want to build a successful direct booking business?
Well, I think the first part is to understand that you are not an Airbnb business. You are a hospitality business, a property management business, a vacation rental business, a short-term rental business, however you want to call it. And Airbnb is one of your distribution partners. Now, it might be your major distribution partner, just like the sort of 80-20 rules that many businesses face where 80% of your revenue comes from 20% of your customers or things like that. It might be the same rule in terms of Airbnb being that main distribution partner, but you don't want all your eggs in one basket. And we see a lot of property managers distribute on more and more channels to de-risk their distribution strategy, but also start testing other strategies that might have a better guest acquisition cost or might have a different profile of guests that fits the sort of hospitality experience they're trying to create. So there's various reasons to do this, but I see more and more operators, especially the professional ones, create that sort of multi-channel distribution play, if you will. And I think it's the right move to not put all your eggs in one basket.
Awesome, man. That's music to my ears. Everything you said right now is things that we've been preaching here at Direct Book Me. So I love those answers. Now, do you think most operators underestimate how important the guest experience is when trying to go direct?
100%. From I think one of the key things that Airbnb has solved is they've created trust with the guest because they're the middleman, but more importantly, they're the trusted middleman. Now, there's different ways they've done this, which is maybe not favorable to hosts in many ways. It's also around the payment layer where you know that your payment is going to be secured and you're not necessarily having to send a check, wire money. I mean, there's certain regions of vacation rentals, specifically I can think of like Germany, for example, where people are actually used to paying with debit cards and not credit cards or checks, and so on. So they've been able to create a platform that makes it trustworthy from the booking experience to the payment experience to the reviews that you see and so on. It's harder when you're booking direct to have that same level of trust unless you have the right tools or you create that unique guest experience where people decide to trust you and book direct. And I think an example of a partner that I can think of that has probably, I don't want to quote 50-50, but all I see in his bookings are either Airbnb or direct, is a company called Flow Home based out of the US. They've got floating homes. They're in Baltimore, in New Jersey, I think in Carolinas as well. I think South Carolina, if I'm not mistaken. But anyways, point is they started on Airbnb. They're super hosts. They built their business off of Airbnb to begin with, but they've started expanding into that direct booking strategy now that they've created a brand that people can actually trust. They've targeted a specific type of guests. They use the right technology to process payments, to make the entire flow on their direct booking websites and so on seamless. And I think this is one of the key ways of not only creating a better guest experience, but also starting to drive that multi distribution strategy, is figuring out a way to make sure that the guest experience is seamless so that it feels like you're booking on Airbnb or any other channel for that matter, but you're booking direct with the operator, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, totally. It's definitely that safety net is that's there. No matter what Airbnb or even Verbo, no matter what they do, they always rely back on that, and that's I totally agree. That is the biggest factor, and the infrastructure is there for direct bookings. It just needs to be put together some way somehow.
Yeah.
But and also, so what do you think are the biggest mistakes you see hosts make when they first launch their direct booking website?
I think the thing is, a lot of hosts treat it like almost like a Facebook marketplace listing, right? Where you have a business and then you decide I'm going to go direct. So you start selling on a Facebook marketplace type approach. And what I mean by that is design, experience, payment processing, upselling, how you present yourself to the guests and so on, versus this idea of I'm going to go ahead and actually create a website and present my brand in a unique way, and make it trustworthy end to end. So yeah, there's a few ways to answer that question, but I think ultimately thinking about the guest experience from inquiry to checkout and beyond, thinking about how you capture those reviews on some of these bookings across different channels and bring them back to your business. I'm a big advocate for Google reviews, both in owner acquisition and guest experience in general. If you're looking up, best vacation rental company in X country, X city, if you don't have any Google reviews, you're basically impossible to find. Indexes really well with LLM search as well. So I think, yeah, going back to that original question, if anything, is how do you create that direct booking strategy? Well, start by figuring out who your guests are and how you can create that seamless experience through your own website and through other channels that's consistent regardless of if someone buys your product or service, or in this case, rents your listing on Airbnb, on your website, on Booking.com, Vrbo, Expedia, you name it. I mean, there's so many OTAs out there. People are used to booking on these channels. I don't know if that answers your question directly, though.
No, it does, and it's like I said, it's just this infrastructure and part of the brand that you're trying to build for yourself, and just knowing that it can be done. It's just you have to be intentional, and when it comes
100%.
to direct bookings,
There are a lot of operators who have only had direct bookings, and they're being courted by Airbnb because they manage 400, 500, 600 listings to distribute on Airbnb, but they've chosen not to because that's the brand they have, and they know that it works really well, and people just trust the brand. And I can think of an example. They are on different channels now, but here in Canada, we've got different companies that manage cottages, and not to name any specific names, but people here in Canada know those companies, and they just know this is where we book our cottage, and we've been doing it like this for a while. So, but they built that trust over the course of 30, 40 years of being in business. So if you don't have that 30, 40 year precedence, then you need to create that quality experience across any of the channels where people remember you, not the channel.
Exactly.
They might remember where they booked it, but they really remember the experience that you curated. And so it becomes more either a branded experience where I remember XYZ holiday stays, B&B, whatever, or I remember you as the individual, Bob, Jeffrey, whatever, and I want to book again with you directly because I trust you now. So I really look at most Airbnb, Booking.com, and any of the major OTAs in a certain way should be treated as a customer acquisition or guest acquisition approach where you get your first time guest there, and that's fine and that's normal. They spend all the money on marketing anyways. You're not going to be able to compete on that. But if you can't create a unique experience enough for them to want to book again directly with you, then in a way you haven't done a great guest experience, and Airbnb kind of outweighed you on that. So it's a frenemy type situation, I think, that you should consider and distribute on many channels. Focus on the ones that work, that have less fraudulent guests, create a good guest experience, don't mess up your operational flows, and think as well about how to create that same strategy direct.
Yeah, definitely. Totally agree. I mean, people remember, where they went to find you. They don't always remember, the place if you don't create that guest experience, and they'll always go back to that platform, knowing that because that trust layer is there, even if they didn't enjoy the stay,
100%.
So,
And I wanted to interject something in there because I think, as people are looking for, their vacation spots or, where they're staying and so on and so forth, you're absolutely right as it relates to if they don't have to book on Airbnb, they don't necessarily have to. And like Airbnb just has the biggest market share, right? But people are just looking for the best place to stay.
Yeah,
And Airbnb just provides the platform. They don't provide the experience. Okay, outside of what Airbnb has launched now, like their experiential, setup, it's not about it's the ease of use that they've created. It's not the branding and it's not the experience of like remembrance of like, as you've mentioned, these cottages have created 30, 40 years of trust and brand value. And like, you're really going to get your, not even just your money's worth, but just the experience of being able to open the door, drop your suitcases and, have a great time there. Right. So I love that you're saying that. And thank you so much for mentioning the Google reviews, because that's extremely important for everybody to get more ground and traction across the board. So
100%. Discoverability of vacation rentals is one of those things that I think Airbnb and most of the big channels have actually aced and have done really well. And because they have global supply, if you're unsure of where you want to stay, it's hard to book direct, right? Because you might be exploring one city, maybe another city, and maybe that operator only has vacation rentals in one particular area. So having that global reach, I think, is the key advantage, if anything, that most OTAs have. The search functions behind it as well, being able to filter, being able to find different types of homes and reviews and so on, has also helped them enormously. But there's a shift happening as well in how people are searching for vacation rentals, and it's becoming more and more experience driven than anything. We see it in how social media plays a huge role in discoverability. People are searching for their trips and travels via TikTok and other social media
oh yeah.
platforms. And you kind of have to adapt to that. You have to be more discoverable across LLMs, social media, and of course OTAs, your website, Google, and you name it.
Oh yeah.
So multi-prong approach.
Yeah, even on ChatGPT or Claude, I just be like, hey, book. I want to go to the Grand Canyon. Find a place to stay where I can do X, Y, Z. It's that's how people are searching around nowadays for a lot of things. So, but that's
100%.
great insight, Francois. Now there's this perception that direct bookings are harder because operators lose the trust layer that Airbnb provides. How do you think about that challenge?
Well, first off, there's nothing harder than there's nothing easier than just putting yourself out there and seeing what happens, right? And if a guest inquires or a guest books, then maybe that mindset will change. I think what makes it harder is the tooling, right? If you're just on Airbnb, Airbnb has tools inside Airbnb that are great. If you're managing one listing, two listings, you don't want to have any headaches of, and I know this doesn't play a great service for myself. We're direct partners with Airbnb. We can certainly help you out if you're on an Airbnb platform and that's it. But
Uh huh.
I understand why some hosts prefer the convenience of it. But the difference is, are you running a side hustle, just hosting a couple nights here and there, or are you running a business? And if you're running a business and you're treating this as I want to grow either my portfolio and it's my own portfolio, or I want to grow my property management business and it's other people's portfolios and so on, you need the right tools to make your life easier across these different channels. So a guest that's booking direct might still want to inquire. How are they going to inquire? Email, SMS, WhatsApp. Maybe you have a website chat. What is going to make it so that they can feel like they're in touch with you, and it's not just here's a property, pick your dates and pay, but really communicate with me, call me, text me, message me. Let me know if you have any questions. Let me build that relationship before you book. And in order to do that, you need the right tools to enable that. And I think that's one of the things that's been missing in the industry for a while is sort of a centralized guest experience module, if you will. And this is where we're focused on. We're trying to become the operating system for hospitality in the context of guest experience, and allowing you to communicate regardless of channel, regardless of booking, regardless of guest types and so on, and just ease all of those concerns. And if it's an Airbnb listing and people are concerned about, some reviews you've had on Airbnb, being able to communicate that. If it's a direct booking and you don't have any reviews on Google and you're not really searchable, also being able to reduce friction there. So communication is key, I think.
Yeah, definitely. As the old saying goes, communication is key, like you mentioned. So
Yeah.
I wanted to shift to recreating the Airbnb level experience. So one thing that Airbnb did incredibly well was simplify the guest journey, like you mentioned, from messaging to check-in to recommendations. I mean, everything feels seamless. How should independent operators think about recreating that experience on their own channels?
So one of the things that I think Airbnb has done poorly, and I say this with utmost respect because I think they've done a beautiful job at it, is that they've taken on that experience themselves and branded it themselves. And there's many reasons for it. Again, we talk about vacation rentals as Airbnb, so there's many, many, many benefits to it. But I think what's missing is the fact that at the end of the day, guests trust hosts more than they trust Airbnb. Meaning they will trust your recommendation as the person that they are staying at more so than any pop-up ads, notifications, or anything that comes from Airbnb. So how can you curate an experience that is unique to that guest, that is profitable to you, that you can monetize, and that the guest is going to remember? Because they will listen to you. If you're looking at the guides function in Airbnb or what's around you and so on, these are suggested by Airbnb. I may as well look on Google. I may as well look on Viator. I may as well look on LLMs. It doesn't really matter. But if I get a message from my host saying, hey, I noticed that you're traveling for a wedding and I highly recommend this place and that place and you guys should check this out and so on, you feel compelled to listen to the local operator and maybe take on one or two or three of those experiences that they're sharing. So I think this is the power that most operators have that they're not monetizing. And something that we at Enzo Connect fully help on. I mean, this is part of our products. We have our AI suite with different technologies that allow you to answer messages and escalate situations and so on. But we have this functionality called a boarding pass, which is effectively a guest portal that navigates the guest through every stage, fully configurable depending on channels and so on. And it monetizes every single step of that guest journey in the utmost personal way because you are the one to create that flow versus a big corporate creating that flow. So what does that flow look like for most operators? I think a lot of vacation rental operators, they know they need to send a booking confirmation message and they know they need to send a check-in message, but they haven't necessarily thought about all of the steps of the guest journey to ensure that sort of, hotel quality stay, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, definitely, and owning the guest, relationship is definitely plays a big factor into that too. Which you can't do on Airbnb, and that's what direct booking is
100%.
all about. It can help
You
you get
know,
there.
a lot of people, they tell me, oh, I'm trying to collect data about my guests. I want to collect emails and phone numbers because all these things are masked by Airbnb and all the other channels. And I tell them, I'm like, what are you going to do with it? And most
Yeah,
operators don't do anything with it, right? They collect all
no,
this data and then they just sit on it and they're like, well, I have this database of 20,000 guests. And if you ask them what marketing campaign they did, the last one they did was a Christmas campaign 3 years ago and they got one booking out of it.
yeah,
The experience is what's going to drive those direct bookings. And the better the experience, the more people are going to want to book, the more referable you become. And I see the best operators who have phenomenal the direct bookings coming in. They do run marketing campaigns as well, of course, but the primary focus is on the guest experience. The secondary stuff is the marketing.
yeah, because that's what it's about. The guest experience and watch, rinse, and repeat. They keep coming back.
100%.
Um, all right, so Francois, what are guests expecting today that maybe they weren't expecting? Let's say 3 to 4 years ago.
I mean, guest expectations are rising so fast. I think people, and with platforms like Airbnb introducing hotels now, And with prices of vacation rentals being, more expensive in many cases than hotels, people expect hotel quality experiences. They want a seamless check-in, don't want to have to go back and forth with you. They want 24/7 responses. They want you to be the front desk, just like you would have a front desk in a hotel. They want you to be the front desk for your vacation rentals. And I think one of the things that guests don't understand is that managing a vacation rental or managing vacation rentals, plural, is like managing different hotels. So you are a sort of, I want to call it like a front deskless hotel in a way where you have to provide that virtual front desk experience across multiple brands or multiple listings and accommodations. And if you want to swim and not sink, you need to think about how you're going to answer guests 24/7, how you're going to solve their issues within 24 hours and start implementing SLAs in your business so that you understand that if a guest has an issue, I need to resolve that quickly because or else it's going to impact my reviews and so on. A good example I think is, and I know we're talking about direct bookings, but since some of the OTAs set the standards as well on how things should be run, a 4.5 or under on Airbnb, you're invisible.
I know.
So you're like bottom 10%. So that one 4-star review where the guest was like, yeah, but I had to go through all these hoops and loops to get in and it was an issue here and this wasn't clean and so on. It's going to cost you way more. You may as well relist your property and start over. And I think that's the new world we're living in is the new benchmark of what a top guest experience is being defined by the OTAs, not by the operators with badges like guest favorites and super hosts and whatever. And really the way it should be defined is by the experience that you curate, which is something a lot of operators are missing out on.
Yeah, and even with the reviews, sometimes that 4.5, sometimes it's not even your fault, Like, let's say it rained and you couldn't go to the beach, and people just get annoyed and they
Yeah.
just gave that review and then that one review because it rained that day and they couldn't go out. It'll drop you like you mentioned. It's tough.
Yeah.
Um, so AI is becoming such a huge conversation across, the hospitality space. Where do you think AI actually creates real value for operators versus just becoming another buzzword?
Well, first off, I don't think AI is a buzzword. I think it's fundamentally changing. It's the new revolution in that we're seeing in front of our eyes. And this isn't, every 10 years you get a cycle with a new hype thing. And how much value does it actually end up creating, right? You could argue between crypto, you could argue with the internet and, every single phase that we've gone through, if you will. AI allows you to move so much faster in so many ways. And I could give examples within my context with technology. But the way I see it is we're moving from co-pilots to autopilots to systems that can fully orchestrate end to end the experience, the operations, and the process for operators. What does that mean? Well, at first it was about creating a better software system where you can press the buttons yourself and sort of configure things the way you wanted to run your hospitality business, be it on operations, be it on guest experience, on distribution, you name it. Then we moved to this sort of AI enhanced component where you can now surface information that you weren't able to really surface before without, buying new software to like analyze all this data. Now you can get really insights about what's working, what's not working at a granular level across your entire portfolio, across thousands of guests, exercises that otherwise you wouldn't do. And I think a good example of that is analyze all your reviews and see what's wrong with a listing, right? That didn't exist 5, 7, 10 years ago. You would just have to go in and manually read every single one of your reviews and try to figure out that pattern. After that, we've moved, I would say about last year, to this more of an autopilot function. Let me grab a few of the specific tasks that you're doing and do it for you. It could be answering your messages. It could be creating a task or, analyzing those reviews. Now I think we're moving towards giving AI access to more and more tools, more and more data, structuring that data and allowing it to resolve problems end to end. Because ultimately when there's an issue, there are individual tasks that need to be done potentially by individual people. If you can train up an AI to handle those different tasks, answer a message, create a work order, follow up with a cleaner, make sure it's been communicated with the guest, all of these are fairly binary to a certain extent, with some nuances that LLMs can fully grasp. I think we're getting closer and closer to a point where you will be able to run your entire vacation rental business on autopilot using AI. And I think that future is going to come way faster than most people think. I think most people think it'll be in 5, 10 years. I think in the next 2 to 3 years, we will start seeing property managers and hospitality professionals manage 150 rooms, 150 listings all by themselves. And they will become effectively a owner management business, a guest management business, and a cleaning management business, more so than the actual property management itself.
Okay.
I love that because it honestly is already here. That's already the capabilities are already here, right? But
Yeah,
the understanding of the individual and the host being able to do it right now and yesterday is not necessarily there. They're still gonna have to hire somebody to like get them to automate that system, but it's already here, you know? So, but to your
100%.
point, yeah, it's moving faster than we ourselves could even see.
For
100%.
sure. Yeah. So Francois, for operators listening right now, what's one automation or guest experience improvement that creates the fastest ROI?
So on the fastest ROI, there's two I would say. Um, well, actually, I'll just summarize it into one to keep it simple. Monetize your operations. And what do I mean by that? Upselling guests is something that will not only increase 5-star reviews because people will understand that this is a paid service, but it will actually drive direct ROI. If you're a homeowner, the ROI might be not as much as if you're a property manager. If you're a property manager, the margin improvement of being able to collect an extra $50, $100 on every single reservation that you keep 100% of from a pure margin play, it's free money. It is how you become more profitable. Now, what does that mean? You are already offering a bunch of these, what I call operational services. There's operations and experiences. Operational services being things like early check-ins, late checkouts, mid-stay cleanings, extra nights, damage waivers, things that are going to fit within your operations that you might already be doing, but you're probably doing them for free. So the guests are asking you, hey, I'm here early. Can I get in? And you're like, oh, I'll just say yes so I can get a better review. Well, guess what? You didn't get a better review because it was raining that day on the beach. And they just thought, well, yeah, he let me in earlier, but who
That's it.
cares?
Yeah.
That's it. Whereas if you said, look, it's a paid service, we can let you in 3 hours in early for $50, but for 1 hour, we're going to give it to you for free. Now there's a value to me
Yeah.
providing that service. And now I can, whether you offer it for free or whether you charge for it, at least putting a price tag and saying, typically this costs us more money because we're going to rush the cleaning for you and make
Correct.
sure that it's done properly still, or whatever the reason may be.
Yeah.
These are services that we can offer. And again, I'm keeping it simple with talking about early check-ins.
Yeah.
This is how you not only get the fastest ROI, but you also start creating your own guest experience and monetizing every step of the way.
Yeah.
So that would be my
Upselling.
biggest tip. Yeah,
Yeah.
upselling,
Yeah. For sure. Yeah. 100%. I definitely agree. There's work put behind it, so there should be money as well. So the
100%.
on the other side. So Enso Connect seems to sit at the intersection of hospitality and operations. So was there a specific pain point you personally experienced that led you to build the company?
So I did have a personal pain point that led me to build this company originally. It has since evolved so much, but originally when I started this was basically because stayed in a vacation rental. The experience was subpar to say the least. No instructions from the host whatsoever. And then 5 days after checkout, we were told that we left one of the windows open in the kitchen. Kitchen pipes froze. This was in one of these chalets up
Um,
north,
I remember.
and that we owed
Sorry to cut
them
you off, but I remember reading that on your. It's on your website.
website. Yeah,
The story. Yeah, it's
yeah,
very.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
That's right. And so, because of that, the host wanted to get $5,000 out of us.
Yeah.
This is a perfect example of someone who hadn't really thought through their guest experience. There were no clear instructions throughout the stay. There was no communication during the stay. Would I book again with him? Absolutely not. Who do I remember in this experience? Airbnb. Why? Because Airbnb solved all my problems.
Yeah.
And so this was kind of the beginning of Enzo Connect at the time. It has since changed a lot. We've learned a lot as well from the industry. We were kind of first to market with some early AI solutions around transformer models, specifically around sentiment analysis, to be able to understand the sentiment of a guest before they post a review. And really what we learned was selling money is so much easier than selling time. So if I could go to an operator and say, I can guarantee you that I will make you more money, it was easier than if I could say, hey, I'm going to guarantee you that I can save you time in your day to day. Why? Because most operators don't know how to quantify their time. Going out and cleaning that unit because you have to, because the cleaner didn't show up. Is it worth your time? Yeah, because I have a booking coming up. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Who knows? And so we shifted towards really focusing on the guest experience, digitizing and monetizing that entire flow from front office to back office. And we proudly say we have a full ROI guarantee. You don't make your money back with Enzo after 12 months. You can keep using our platform for free. So it's free money is what I would say.
Wow, awesome, cool. So now moving on, to trust protection and risk management. One of the biggest concerns operators have with direct bookings is protection. Your damage claims, guest screening, fraud, chargebacks. How has that evolved?
So there's different ways of operating this, right? So the first thing I would say is a big shout out to Truvi, one of our partners around damage protection. We recently launched a product with them as well that covers any sort of damages up to $50,000 in your listings. I don't want to call it an insurance product because it's not insurance, but call it a non-guaranteed guarantee. There's other plays. There's collecting IDs and making sure the guest is the right person to stay. Shout out to AutoHost for that. There's collecting a damage waiver or safety deposit. One of the best plays we had over the past 2 years was providing the guest the choice between a damage waiver or a safety deposit, arbitraging effectively the safety deposit. You knew that you would only be able to make a $250 on that safety deposit if you were to collect it because there was an issue, or you could charge 5 guests $50 and keep $50 on every single reservation. And if there was a rainy day and a rainy issue, you could use that $250 you collected across multiple guests to cover issues. Again, an arbitrage on how you collect these payments. There's so many different ways of protecting your assets. But again, in order to build that trust with the guests, you want to use the right tools. It's not just about collecting payments and, asking them to email you IDs. All of these steps are just going to make you look less and less professional. It's about curating that experience end to end, where from the moment I book to the moment I check out, it feels like, wow, this entire flow was thought through and they anticipated my needs. Yes, they had some requirements around safety, insurance, or this or that, but it was well communicated. It was easy for me to understand why I was having to do these things. It was a 5-star experience at the end of the day. So yeah, different ways of protecting your assets for sure.
Yeah, and education is a big thing. There's hosts and operators that don't even know that can be done. They're like, what? I can centralize all this stuff and kind of have that concierge experience for my guests when it comes to collecting payment and verifying ID. They don't even know these things exist. So
Yeah.
so this is really really good information here. That's definitely can help these operators. Now, how do you help operators create trust without creating friction in that booking process?
I think in the booking process, so I don't handle the booking process itself directly. We handle everything once the booking or the inquiry has been made. We don't actually handle booking payments or anything like that. But I think the first thing is having a really good direct booking website, something clean, not something that looks from the 90s. Have something that really looks modern and intuitive. There's so many platforms out there that can help you with that. The second part is making sure that you're using the right payment processors as well, that you're allowing people to pay with credit cards and other means of payments that they trust, giving them that explicit understanding that these payments are secure and so on. The last thing I want to feel is like I'm sending my credit card information to a guy over the phone number, over a phone call, and he's going to make a booking for me. Like, I don't know. It's a new country, new city. Maybe that's how things are run in that place, but that is not something that I feel trustworthy enough to roll with. And then, explaining what that experience for the guest is going to look like, what those steps are going to be because they've booked direct or booking.com or Airbnb or whatever the channels are, really explaining to them what your steps are. So if you're collecting an ID because you need it for HOA or you need it for authority reporting because you're in Spain and you need to explain that to guests ahead of time. An American who's traveling to Spain, I see this all the time with our Spanish customers. We end up signing up and hopefully help on the guest experience. But they'll be so used to, oh, you just send me your IDs on WhatsApp. Send me a picture of your
Yeah,
passport on WhatsApp. Like,
they do that a lot.
what? It's crazy for me. And if you're coming from North America, you're like, I'm not sending you
Yeah,
my passport via WhatsApp.
yeah.
That feels like the most unsecure thing ever.
I've had
But
that
that's how
happen
things
too.
are run.
Yeah,
Yeah. You
yeah.
go
I've
to
had that
Italy,
too.
same thing. You go to Greece,
Yeah,
same thing. Croatia, same thing. So, but it's because, maybe there's no better tool. Well, there are. And if you can create that experience where it explains to the guests, look, in Spain, we got to collect IDs. We have to send them to the local authorities every time a guest stays in one of the vacation rentals. It's a legal requirement. Or in France, if we're a hotel style property, we got to collect a city tax, and that's going to be off platform. If you're in Vegas, same thing. Vegas is a whole different story when it comes to city taxes
yeah,
and so on. But the more you communicate and you make it less of a surprise, uh, the more it's part of the experience and the guests understand, and you're good to go,
yeah,
regardless of where the guest booked.
yeah. Education. Yeah, let them know.
Yeah.
Um, so do you think the future of hospitality comes more proactive instead of reactive? I mean, where AI can actually identify risks before those problems even happen?
I think 100% proactive. I started building policies for our operators to improve their automation ratios, and it's all the same. Every operator has some of the same rules. And so when it comes to guest verification and making sure that you have the right people staying in the right place, there's a lot of data that can tell you whether or not you're going to create more risks for yourself. Simple examples, but last minute bookings from someone who lives in the same city, it's probably not the right booking. A booking ahead from an international traveler and it's the World Cup, yeah, sounds like a great opportunity. And sounds like an even better opportunity to monetize and upsell and curate the experience to make it memorable. So I think all of the data is available. It's just about extracting it and making it easy to understand for operators that are extremely busy and that are extremely busy across so many verticals: cleaning, maintenance, owner satisfaction, guest satisfaction, financials, accounting, even regulations and so on. So just surfacing what's important and actioning that, leveraging AI end to end so that those problems are out of mind effectively for professional property managers.
Okay. Now, what operational systems do the best performing short-term rental operators have in common today?
Typically, what I see is a distribution platform. So call it a channel manager or property management software. There are plenty of softwares out there for this. A revenue management system. There's three of the best ones out there that I can think of. Top of my mind, I'm sure there's many more out there, but Wheelhouse, Beyond Pricing, Price Labs. A guest experience and or operations system. One could be one or it could be two different systems. And then a direct booking strategy slash system. Now, typically that fits within a property management system. Maybe it isn't. I think there's so many verticals. I don't think there's no ideal tech stack for someone. You kind of have to build what makes sense in terms of the business that you want to build. If you want to make this a hyperscaler or if you want to make this more of a short business, small business, really depends. But I think if you categorize different departments, guest experience, operations, revenue management, accounting, distribution, and direct bookings and so on as part of it, you can start thinking about what that tech stack looks like and what are those different pieces that need to connect together.
Got it. Awesome. Now, for someone managing, 5 properties and versus someone who has 100, does the approach to automation and guest management change dramatically, or how's that stay the same, or how's that work?
No, I think it's the same thing. Whether you have 5, 10, 100,000, whatever, it's the same problems. It's the same issues. It's just a different scale. In one case, you can afford to hire people. In another case, you can't. In one case, you might be able to afford a lot of different tools. In another case, you can't. So I really think it's just a scaling issue more than is it different ultimately for the experience that you're trying to drive or the automations that you should create? It should be the same. You should be thinking whether you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 properties or 1,000 about how you create that experience end to end and how you automate every single step of the way. If you can free up your time because you're no longer answering basic questions like Wi-Fi or how do I check in and so on, you can start calling your guests. And you know what? That phone call that you get at 11 a.m. from your host saying, hey, I'm just calling to see how your first night was. It's going to be like, whoa, that's different. I've never gotten that before. That's so nice. Thanks for calling. Yeah, that was great. Actually, And that actually would have been the thing that would have been in that review at the end of the stay. And now you've just captured it before anything. They wouldn't have messaged it you. It's not a big deal, but actually, if this was a bit annoying, or we'd love to have this instead. And now you have an opportunity to fix a problem ahead of them leaving a bad review. But you can't do that today. If you have 100 listings, even 5 listings, you're too busy. So, automate as much as possible, monetize as much as possible. Whether you have 5, 100, 1,000, if you're thinking about scaling, do it as soon as possible, is what I would say.
So the goal,
Definitely keep that like personal touch. Sorry, Carlos, because a lot of people tend to forget that the customer service aspect of the marketing system is not really part of marketing, but it is. It's just because you've captured them, they've stayed, at your place, and they've either left and want to come back. That customer service is going to keep that retention, and they're going to tell other people about you. So no matter how
100%.
big you grow, into your point, even if you can't pick up the phone and ask them how their experience was, find a way to do it that feels like a one-to-one personal touch, and don't forget to do it. I remember Casper the mattress, when they first started doing their thing, they wrote a handwritten note every time they delivered a mattress. Hence, fast forward, they started scaling like crazy. They forgot about doing that. Okay, maybe if it's not handwritten, at least just put something in there with someone's first name, or a little, like, I don't know, to just feel like, oh, I feel seen. I've ordered a mattress from them and they're really seeing me. People want that, and they're going to crave it more as we move into everything being automated and everything not being a personal one-to-one touch.
100%. Couldn't agree more with you. We see it as well with our own ticketing systems and so on, where 78% of all of our tickets are handled end to end with AI, and 100% of our tickets have a human in the loop. So it sounds almost counterintuitive, because you're like, well, hold up. Didn't you just say 78% were handled with AI? Why would you put a human in that ticket? But human could come in and say, hey, did we answer your question correctly? And it might be a yes, it might be a no, or it might be a yes, but, and bam, now you have another opportunity to create a better experience for our customers, for your guests, for your owners, and whoever it might be that you're servicing.
Yeah, I mean, I always say it's hospitality at the end of the day. AI, like you said, it's there, to make the experience better. But showing up, one way or another, like you said, by jumping in with that human interaction plays a role for sure.
Yeah.
So now, when it comes to revenue, and direct booking growth, and scaling, when operators, think about direct bookings, they often focus on saving platform fees, but I feel like the bigger opportunity is actually customer ownership and lifetime value. How do you see that?
To own the customer and to build that, it starts with the first experience that you curate for them. I actually am not sure how you build that long-term relationship with customers unless you run a very family-like business. Those are the most successful businesses I've seen run very long-term relationships with their customers. It depends on scale. It depends on if people are coming back to your location often. It depends on the type of guests that you service. There's a lot of different reasons why it's either very easy to run or very hard to do, and sometimes not possible to do, and shouldn't be actually the strategy for you to do. It shouldn't be to capture, repeat guests because you're in a very transient area or a very transient market. I'll give you a few examples. I talked about the cottage piece. Well, the cottage piece we know is a lot of families, they're booking again. Maybe they want to try a different cottage, fine. But that they live in the area or close by, and this is part of their summer vacation is to rent a cottage. So that is an opportunity there to get someone to stay with you over and over and over again, or maybe stay in a different property, but that you also manage. In the context of a guest traveling for business or a guest traveling for the World Cup or something like that, it might be harder to create that repeat pattern. But if you can become the sort of default person, vacation rental or place that I would stay if I ever booked again in this place because the experience was great, that's how you create brand or loyalty with your guests. I can think about my personal experience. I traveled to Nice once for vacation. I booked a vacation rental. Every time I go to Nice, I've gone to the same vacation rental. It's close to where I want to be. The host is always, really nice. He's referred me to the right scuba diving clubs that I like. And, it's just the entire experience end to end was smooth. I could find another place, maybe cheaper, maybe more expensive, but I just know it. It's easy. I can just message him back and forth. I already have a relationship with that person now. So that is what you want to try and create in the hospitality space, whether you manage 1 or 5 or 10 listings, and how you organically build that loyalty, that guest coming back and staying with you, and effectively improving your metrics as well, your margins and so on. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, totally, it definitely does. I was talking to one host in Wisconsin, and I'm just following up with him how his bookings were going, and it's actually funny enough in Wisconsin, right? It's freezing there most of the year, but he told me during the summer a lot of people were going there celebrating anniversaries, and I was like, he keeps getting those people coming back, and I was like, well, you found your niche, you found your sweet spot, run with it, and then if
Yeah.
that's working for you, go for it. So yeah, it's exactly what you were saying. When it comes to building that brand and that owning that customer relationship. Now, what kind of measurable outcomes are operators seeing after implementing systems like Enso Connect?
So typically we'll see roughly $80 to $120 per listing per month in new revenue that's generated. Anywhere between 40 to 60% of all guest conversations are fully automated end to end. You'll see a boost in reviews and ratings, and you'll more importantly see a reduction in the amount of questions guests have. So one of the key differences I see between hotels and vacation rentals is you book a hotel, you don't have any questions. You just show up.
Yeah.
You just know that at the end of the day, someone's going to be there and it'll be fine. If we can create that same experience with the vacation rentals where there's that trust where it's like, at the end of the day, I know I'll be fine. I don't even need to answer messages or send them a message and ask for information. I know how to check in. It'll be easy. And that's one of the things we're really proud of is we typically reduce anywhere between 20 to 30% of all guest conversations that happened overall throughout the stay, and specifically around the pre-check-in, it's closer to 60, 70, 80%, depending on operator's location and so on. So there's way less questions of why do I need to do this and what happens and, when will I get my information and so on. All of that is streamlined.
Oh, okay. So do you think we're moving toward a future where the strongest short-term rental brands more likely hospitality companies than just property managers?
I don't know. I actually have no idea. I mean, I would love to give you a confirmed statement on this, but I think AI is throwing a wrench in some of those plans. Do we move in a world where there's one major property management company that eats them all up because they've leveraged AI in the most efficient way possible, that is the direction? Do we self-cannibalize every single property management business because now homeowners can automate their entire experience end to end and create a Ritz-Carlton experience with one listing across multiple channels? Do we find a hybrid where there are no property managers, but they're very unique hospitality brands that, kind of win the markets that they play in with their uniqueness? I don't know. But what I would say is that hospitality is deeply rooted in local. And what I think is I believe that the one thing that we cannot strip out of hospitality, and as we see more and more roll-ups and so on, is that local boots on the ground sort of nuance. So we'll see how it evolves, but I think the industry is only going to get more and more professional. Unique brands are only going to start popping out more and more. How that further evolves, I'm not sure. Really not sure, Carlos. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, for operators overwhelmed by tech stacks and tools, where should they start first if they want to improve direct bookings?
We'll get a direct booking website to begin with. If you want direct bookings, you're probably going to need a direct booking website. That's a for sure one. If you're going to need some way of communicating with these guests as well, via email, SMS, and so on, and centralizing those conversations. You can think about using a distribution system that can help you as well manage across multiple channels so that you don't have double bookings. But I would really start with just your direct booking website. Like, have a website that's really clean, that's nice, that's really well built out, that allows you to get those bookings in and see what kind of guests am I attracting. Or more international travelers booking direct, or is it local operators, local guests? Is this working for me or not? How much more work is it? And slowly builds your brand effectively. In terms of tech stacks that are out there, there's plenty of tools. I'm not going to specifically name names, but I would say I know and recognize that it's getting harder to figure out what that technology stack looks like because there's a lot of AI tools out
Yeah.
there that can do everything for everyone. But focus on trying to solve a problem first before trying to find the technology solution. Like, what is it that you're actually trying to solve? You're trying to get more direct bookings, start by having a direct booking website. Next from there, you have a direct booking website. You want more direct bookings? Okay, let's figure out what tools can help you market. How can we get the right data to create the sequences to get more guests and so on through that booking website? Or is it a brand issue? At which point, what can we do to elevate your brand? So tackling each issue one at a time versus trying to just put technology to solve your problems is probably what you want to look at.
Awesome. All right. Well, I wanna end with one more question here. You know, if Airbnb built trust for the first generation of short-term rental travelers, what do you think will define the next generation of direct booking brands? In other words, what separates the operators who survive from the ones who actually become hospitality brands people remember?
One, if you curate a really unique experience. Two, if you've built a portfolio of short-term rentals that can help surface your brand better, and not just accepting any vacation rental, but accepting things that fit the brand and the experience that you're trying to curate. And yeah, really thinking about like what kind of business am I running? Am I just managing as many properties as I can and it's a volume game and it's like give me your one bedroom, your studio, and your barn? Or am I actually trying to build a new hospitality business that has a unique brand? I think Sonder did something amazing with that. Obviously, they didn't work out because of their business model, but they had a unique brand. There's the hostel brand. It starts with an S as well. I forget the name, but anyways, another company that managed to build a unique brand. I mentioned Flow Home as an example. There are plenty out there that have curated the experience, picked up a specific type of asset, and created a direct booking strategy that is extremely successful. Those would be my
And
three advices.
would you say that they focused on a particular like traveler as well? Like they've really narrowed down like their niche ICP?
Yeah, 80-20 rule, right? They'll accept everyone. They're not, but 80% of their travelers look like something. And that something could be, in the case of Flow Home, I see a lot of staycations or travelers from other places, but they're really staying short stays. It's like, let's do a little romantic trip or birthday trip. There's a purpose to that trip, and they've really targeted that. In the case of cabins for you, it's a lot of families. It's extremely seasonal. It's a lot of families going to cottages and so on. So yeah, you've identified a type of guest. The inventory fits that type of guest. You're curating the experience for that type of guest, and you're building a brand around that type of guest for sure.
I love it. Francois and Carlos, thank you so much. This has been an engaging conversation, and I think it's really clear, just from the back and forth that we've been discussing that, bookings are no longer just about avoiding fees. It's about building a real brand as you keep, pounding on Francois. It's like owning the guest relation. It's curating experiences people actually remember. I mean, it's all encompassing and it's the whole customer journey end to end. So we really appreciate the conversation. And I just want to say, for everyone listening, if you want to learn more about Enzo Connect and how they're helping operate and streamline operations and elevate the guest journey, we'll include all the links below so that you can get in contact. And thank you so much for your time again.
Thank you so much, Sasha. Thanks, Carlos. Really appreciate it.
No, thanks for
Thank
coming
you.
on and educating us all on Enso Connect and how you guys are helping shape the short-term rental space.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me. Cheers, guys.
All right,
Bye.
Bye.
take care. Have a good one. Bye bye.